sound like that.
Hello and welcome back to Off Camber. My name is Alfred. On this week's episode, I'll be working on the exhaust system on the Jeep JK. Now, if you were with me a couple weeks ago when you were watching the episode of when I did the rear Motobilt frame chop bumper and crossmember installation, then you noticed during that install that I actually had to remove the factory muffler. So, although the bumper turned out really good, it left me with an exhaust system that was a lot louder, more raspier just around town driving, and had a constant exhaust drone while driving down the interstate. So on this week's episode, I pieced together a number of exhaust components, hoping to make my own exhaust system that is going to be a lot quieter than what it is now, and also tucked up and out of the way of rocks and potential trail damage. So let me show you guys the system that I pieced together over on the workbench. And here's the new Jeep exhaust system all laid out on the fab table. As you can tell, it's a lot shorter than what the factory system would have been. This end right here is going to connect to the factory Y pipe, and then all the other junctions are going to be all welded together. This bracket right here is going to connect to the frame side and have a rubber isolator to support the end of the exhaust. And over here we have the band clamp for this end, along with the isolators and also a section of exhaust tubing just to give me more adjustability and to connect these two pipes together via that. So that's the new exhaust system all laid out. Now let's start ripping out the old and putting in the new. So now we're under the Jeep and we're about ready to start ripping off the factory exhaust system. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna remove this band clamp that's up here, and that's what connects the factory exhaust to the Y pipe. And when we remove that exhaust clamp, we'll have to also remove these rubber isolators. And as soon as those are out, the exhaust system should slide right back and out of the way. So when I initially tried to remove the band clamp, I was having issues trying to get the nut off the bolt, just because there's so much corrosion on the bolt that the threads are no longer there. So moving forwards, I'm just have to use the grinder to get the clamp off. With all the factory exhaust removed, now we're ready to go through and start installing our new components. So that's about where the exhaust is going to be laid out. If you guys notice that this muffler outlet and this resonator inlet is the same diameter, so I'm gonna have to make use some exhaust tubing and make a coupler for this, and I'll weld this joint all together. But with this joint as well, I need to figure out how more aft or more forwards the resonator and tailpipe need to go. But before I do that, I am going to install this exhaust hanger, just because this exhaust hanger is what hangs from the crossmember of the Jeep, and then with a rubber isolator to this guy here on the outlet. So I'm gonna install this guy and see how far back I need to go with this, and then I'll make up the difference here at the muffler's outlet. Now if you guys can see, this exhaust hanger bracket has two mounting locations in it. Just keep that in mind for later in the video. So now I got the exhaust mocked up into the Jeep. Now what I'm gonna do now is connect the resonator and the muffler together. I just have to make a piece that slides into the both of them, and then I'll weld them together. To determine the length of the coupler, I'm gonna slide this exhaust tubing into the muffler and mark out where it bottoms out. Then I'll take it out and measure how deep it is.
Next, I'll do the same for the resonator and also mark that location. Once I have both measurements, I'll add them together to give me the length of the coupler.
So I got the muffler and the resonator in. The only thing left to worry about on this end is just figuring out where the downspout's going to be. So I want the exhaust hanger on the downspout and the exhaust hanger that we installed earlier to be in line with each other. So it needs to be about right there. So I'm going to have to trim back the downspout a little bit so it actually sits flush in here and lines up with the hangers. So an issue that looks like we're having is that the hanger for the downspout versus the hanger for the exhaust hanger that we installed earlier is they're too far offset. So I'm gonna move the hanger more inboard to the Jeep, and hopefully this makes the hangers line up a lot more. So the last piece I got to weld to the make the system complete is the piece that goes up to the Y pipe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that on here and weld it together. Now if you guys notice, I do have indexing marks. I use a Sharpie, and that just helps me. So when I know I take it off the Jeep, I know where these pipes are supposed to fit. So none of my other alignments are gonna get messed up. So I'm gonna weld this together and then throw it back onto the Jeep.
To get better access to the forward section of the exhaust system, I'm going to take the transfer case skid plate and move it off to the side. Now I'm going to come through with a small sledge and hammer the exhaust system till it's flush onto the Y pipe.
So now I got the exhaust into the Jeep, and I think we're almost ready to see how it's going to sound. A couple of things a couple issues I ran into when installing it is that had a couple issues with the hangers. So with the rear hanger, the bracket that bolted to the cross member came down and came out to a 90. Came out a little bit too far. When I had it in there, the bar from the hanger would hit the tailpipe and it would rattle off of that. So I ended up putting a 90 into it, and the clearance is just fine now. The other issue is that this front hanger, this bar would extend out into the frame. It would contact the frame. So I ended up taking a little bit of it off just to give me more room, and I don't think that's going to be going anywhere. It's pretty tight in there. So the last thing I got to do, I got to put the band clamp up here at the Y pipe, and then we can lower this down and see how she sounds.
One thing I didn't realize about this DynoMax muffler is that it came shipped wrapped in this clear film, so I'll remove it before starting the Jeep. Now with the new exhaust system installed, I'll show you how the Jeep sounded before without the muffler and how it sounds now with the whole new system.
So I just got done with the interstate portion of the test drive, and I like to say that the difference is clearly noticeable. Before, I would jump on the interstate, cruise around at about 80 miles an hour, and you always have that drone just kind of in the back of the Jeep. But now with this system in it, that drone is no longer there, and it makes driving a lot more pleasurable, and I can actually listen to music without like that background noise. I think the system turned out very well. It's tucked up above the frame rail and should be clear of obstacles while on the trail. And it also clears up the space in the back behind the new crossmember for the bumper. Clears up that space for a potential fuel cell in the future. So I'm very happy about that. Now, the majority of the components that I got for this kit, I got off of Amazon, for one exception. That's the Resonator. I had to get that through Summit. But I'll be sure to give you guys all those part numbers and the total cost of what it was to actually put the system onto the JK. But thank you guys for joining me on this episode, and I'll be sure to catch you guys on the next adventure.